Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and today I'll be talking about a heavy plasma incinerator build for the heavy class for both operations and siege mode in patch 8.0 of Space Marine 2. Now I've talked about this build before, but a lot of people ask me all the time what heavy plasma build is the best, so we're going to make this again here to talk about the best weapon in the entire game, which is the heavy plasma incinerator. And really number 2 is the multi-melta, because go figure, heavy has like the 2 best guns in this whole game, but then again, he is a heavy class and guns are kind of his whole thing. Now the best variant of this weapon, in my opinion, is the rate of fire variant because charged shots are like the best thing on this weapon. You can also use the ammo capacity version for like light shot spam. That is pretty fun. I probably only use that in the actual operations because on siege mode you really do want charged shots, and really in the siege mode the lower magazine capacity doesn't really matter at all in the higher waves because our prestige perk here, auxiliary reload, melee kills of extremis level or higher enemies restore your primary weapons ammo by 1 magazine. This scales up tremendously in siege mode, and you will get nearly infinite ammo. You will need ammo sometimes, but for the most part, you are so set on your ammo capacity with this perk alone. And as for the actual weapon perk tree here, we do take common cooling first. Common shots generate 10% less heat. Now, common shots on this plasma weapon are much better than all the other ones, mainly because they one-shot Minoris enemies and do significant damage to Majoris and Extremis and even Terminus enemies at times, so this is a very valuable perk here. Next, we go into rapid cooling, which is after killing 7 enemies rapid succession. This weapon does not heat for 10 seconds. Cooldown is 15 seconds. Now, a 10-second uptime on 0 heating is pretty incredible, so this is pretty much a mandatory perk to go down into the most important perk ever anyways, which is heavy velocity. When in heavy stance, shots charge 15% faster. This is just giving us charged shots much more quickly, and that's pretty much mandatory on this gun to like fully fire off our DPS AoE, so that's pretty much the reason we take this. Then we go down to plasma collection. This weapon's energy reserve increases by 20%, and then we go into efficient charge. And now, while I did say this weapon does have like infinite ammo, it is super ammo hungry, and this just makes it quite a bit easier to pull off our auxiliary reload and get in between those procs. And same thing here with adamant restoration for more ammo recovery. Next perk here is heavy fire. While in heavy stance, fire rate increases by 15%, and then we move up into supercharged shot. Damage from a charged shot increases by 10%. Now, with this setup all the way down here as well, and when you use the perk brute force, you will be able to one-shot any Majoris in this game with a fully charged plasma shot, and that is pretty epic. And then we go over here into heavy immunity, which is while in heavy stance you do not lose control from heavy hits. This is like the only way to get no knockback in your heavy stance outside of strategic stand as a perk, so pretty much mandatory pick in my opinion. And then we go down into retaliation. After a perfectly timed dodge, you deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. This is a really good perk because there's no cooldown. It has a 10-second uptime, though you should bear in mind that most of the perks like this in this game, when they have like a 10-second uptime, you cannot reapply the cooldown, or excuse me, you cannot like reapply the buff until the actual thing goes on cooldown. So you have to wait for all 10 seconds to finish first before you can reapply it. But still really good because perfect dodging happens all the time in this game, especially in siege mode where there are just so many enemies on you. Now the or I should say the last perk here is charged cooling. Charged shots generate 10% less heat, and that's pretty much, our only choice here anyways. So that's what we take here. And as for our secondary selection, we do take the plasma pistol here. Now the plasma pistol is a very powerful weapon in siege mode, mainly because its gun strikes do have an AoE effect. It will do significant damage to anything around it on the gun strike, and this is a heavy class, so he is perfect parrying all the time, and gun strikes are just really valuable for him and really valuable in siege mode in general. And we also take the magazine capacity variant, mainly because having more ammunition in the siege mode, especially on your secondary, because it's actually quite hard to get back ammunition for your secondary without buying it, that just means you're going to be saving requisition points, and requisition points can be spent on some of the best things in this game, like Astartes reinforcements, or even your Dreadnought that a lot of people like. Now, as far as the actual perk tree goes, once again, we just build for ammo. Pretty much the same setup on like any class I build this for. You could take other perks if you want. You could even take like the rate of fire. It's really not that important because like, the main thing on this gun is just your gun strikes, and that's like what it's really carried by. As far as the heavy perk tree goes here, we take restoration first. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores 1 armor segment. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This is a really valuable perk on its own. It's also like the only usable perk in this tree because this perk is awful and this perk is literally unusable. So restoration is kind of a no-brainer. no-brainer. Next perk we take here is Fortitude. Health increases by 30%. This makes you so tanky and lets you survive things that would outright kill other players. So that's pretty much why I always take this, because there's so much that can go wrong in siege mode at times, and having more HP, especially on the higher waves, can keep you alive for much longer. And this perk up here, Thermal Boost, is like the ultimate, I want to shoot more and do more damage. So you could take this if you want. I just rate Fortitude significantly higher. Now the next perk here is Overwhelming Power. When Iron Halo is active, all squad members within 10 meters deal 10% more range damage. This is just a range damage buff for the class that is all range damage, and it also helps out your teammates because it really needed that, I guess. So really good perk, pretty much like the best perk in this whole tree here. I feel like perks like Versatility, and especially this one, should get a serious buff, but for now this is the best one here. And now 14 perks, Encompassing Aegis. All squad members take 25% less damage from range attacks. This is like one of the best team perks in the whole game. A flat out 25% range damage reduction from all sources for your entire team is incredible, and considering what the other perks in this tree do, like Bonds of Brotherhood and additional supply, it's kind of a no-brainer because this one just grants you more value by a significant margin. Now next perk here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge. Cooldown is 90 seconds. Melt-a-Bombs save games. Melt-a-Bomb spam is like the S tier strat in siege mode, and this is stacking with your secure stockpile on your tactical, and really just putting out Melt-a-Bombs all the time with this team comp. And overall, Heavy on his own already dumps Melt-a-Bombs like nobody's business, and this is like the oldest perk, the old guard of equipment recharge perks. So pretty much always take this. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Next perk here is Obdurate Bastion. Iron Halo's durability increases by 20%. This perk is really good in siege mode because sometimes you get shot by so much, and sometimes you just need to have your Iron Halo survive more so you can get more charge shots off. Though you could take Field Adjustment. Iron Halo recharges 20% faster, but its durability is reduced by 25%. You kind of have to play differently with this one because really your Iron Halo comes back a lot faster, but you're going to be, proccing it and then turning it off, and then proccing it and turning it off to get like Brute Force and things like that to proc. It takes a little bit of practice to use this one if you want to use it, but overall I do think this one is better on the siege mode currently. And then for signature perks, we take Offensive Capability. When active, Iron Halo deals damage over time to all enemies within 5 meters. This perk is just amazing. It lets you walk through Bramble, walk through Cultists, also walk through Spore Mines. It has a tremendous impact, honestly like a suspiciously high impact, well not suspiciously high, but a surprisingly high impact, because you can also just turn this thing on, and like when you execute an enemy, your shield will like sit in another guy and like put them to execute as well, or will just get like the last bit of damage you need on an enemy to execute them in the first place. So just incredibly good perk. I do think that Conversion Field is pretty good too, but this one has no range limit and just works all the time and is almost always beneficial whenever you turn on your Iron Halo. So pretty much a god tier perk, to be honest, for this class. And this perk needs like a full-on rework. Now as far as our prestige perks go, we do just take Auxiliary Reload, melee kills of extremis level or higher enemies restore primary weapons ammo by 1 magazine. This one is kind of mandatory to like seriously push into siege mode into the higher waves, because otherwise you're gonna be spending so many requisition points on ammunition on this class, which you can do. Like if you're just trying to get to wave 15, you don't really need this, but most people want this perk is what I'm trying to say. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. This makes you so tanky on top of your drip fed armor here from Restoration, on top of your 30% increased HP, on top of your 25% less damage reduction, on top of your 10% less damage reduction while Iron Halo is active. And this perk, on top of all of that, it makes it damn near impossible to die for like 90% of the game for you, and Heavy really is just incredibly tanky for a class that does as much damage as he does. It's honestly shocking at times, and that's why Conviction is just goated. Next perk here is Indomitable Spirit. While performing a gun strike, you do not lose control from taking any hits, and you cannot be knocked back. No knockback is incredibly valuable in this game. You will be gun striking all the time, and a single knockback while you're trying to gun strike can actually kill you in this game at times with the amount of enemies that are in siege mode, and this perk is invaluable for that reason alone. And then the last perk you can choose between is like Duelist or Reverberating Impact. To be honest, I don't think these two, really any perk after like these three, matters too much, because in siege mode you aren't stomping that much because you're too busy shooting, and Exponential Force, again, you're not stomping that much because you're too busy shooting, and Duelist only works on like the latter end of your parry window. It does not affect the startup time for your parry window, and balanced parry windows have a 10 frame negative startup, which means for the first 10 frames of your parry window, you cannot actually perfect parry. And then it has like a 30 frame perfect parry window after those 10 frames end. And this perk only affects those 30 frames, is what I'm trying to say. So it's not as valuable as it looks. Still decent at times because you can catch like Lictors and Raveners where otherwise you could not, especially if they stack out and stagger their attacks in a way that's kind of like awkward, and this will catch them out of that. But most of the time it doesn't happen, so I don't rate this super high. But if you want to take these 4, you could. I think that's probably the best setup for Siege mode, to be honest, because again, reverberating impact is good. You just aren't stomping that much in Siege mode. It's much better in Operations. So that is pretty much all there is to talk about for the Heavy Plasma Incinerator build. I do want to say that this build is probably the strongest build in the game currently, and definitely the strongest build for solo. I've taken this build to wave 20 plus in the PTS True Solo on Hard Siege, and wave 18 in the live game, and both times we got timed out, really because the Heavy Plasma just makes it like damn near impossible to die, and you are so effective at destroying bosses, especially when you buy a tactical bot. Your damage goes through the roof, and I will show that in the gameplay footage in a second, but I really can't stress enough how powerful the Heavy really is right now. He simply has every tool he needs to live and just dish out damage. And that's really all you have to do in this game. And once you actually learn how to properly dodge and use a balanced parry window, honestly, sky's the limit with this guy. He's also a ton of fun to play. So hopefully this build guide helped, and here's some of the gameplay now. See you there.
Providing tactical assistance.
That could be a safe bet, to be honest. Dude, look at that, running me over. Whoa, 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 whoa. That is not proper behavior from that Ravener, popping out instantaneous trying to go for me. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Oh shit. There's so many enemies. Ugh. I should just be laying down the plasma here because of tactical bot. It makes life pretty easy for this.
You may be in for a challenging fight. Prioritizing targets.
Oh, triple Carnifex. We're cooking this time. No Neurothrow. God, I fucking hate Neurothrows, man.
Focus on high priority targets.
Alright, I want to lay in some proper fucking damage on them while I can. Before shit gets too crazy. Alright, well, we got locked there, but that's okay.
Movement restored. Purge the priority targets from the combat zone.
Alright, well, we got some free damage on that one. I want to get as much damage into them as I possibly can before we happen to run out of our bot. Because once he's gone, our life gets dramatically more difficult.
Iron Halo online.
I want your armor. I'm going to go over there and grab my Sims, if I can. I'll probably do anyways.
High priority targets remain active.
Alright, where are these guys? Those Raveners are gone.
Iron Halo protocol in progress. Revenant height tyranny obliterated. Focus on high priority targets.
Oh, it's perfect. See, this is it. That's where we want. That's where the Heavy shines. Alright, there we go. Perfect.
And then our bot does tremendous damage. Oh, we overheated ourselves there. That's okay.
Displaying evasive behavior. Intercept enhanced tactic ready. Sending bombardment detected. Tyrannic unit sighted. Maximize efficiency by attacking the strongest foes.
There we go. That's one down. All right. Easy peasy. Nothing. One's about to die too. I usually just mark them. If anyone's where my tag, I mark them instead of which one's low. They all look the same.
Call effect. Optimal battlefield strategy. Eliminate priority targets.
Alright, it's the perfect hallway for them. Alright, come to me.
Destroy spore mines. Iron Haven ready. Engaging elite. Priority threats eliminated. Stand firm against the remaining scum.
Alright, that was nice. And now our tactical bot vanishes. He's like, I've done my duty, brother. Goodbye.
Passive on.
Yeah, I really like these enraged guys. They don't feel remotely as cracked as the ones in the operations. I genuinely think that finishing a true solo operation with double boss spawns is actually harder now than getting to wave 15 solo on Siege. With most classes. Not if you had triple hell route, I'll say that. For like assault, you do triple hell route for a lot of things. It is definitely harder. Just because you have fewer resources. But you can kind of buy your way through that round. Like if we really cataclysmically fucked up, oh, look at this guy, he almost came in barreling at me.
Conversion field.
Post wave 15 though, this mode is quite cracked. Quite cracked.
Refilling magazines.
I don't like this. Alright, where are you? Give me your head. Or whatever the hell you were.
Enhanced tactic ready.
I only used 2 stims that time too. Or maybe 3. I don't know. I'm only keeping track.
Iron Halo protocol in progress.
That's that. Is a Space Marine really able to catch the spike of a card effects like that? The game said yes. Hello sir, how are you? We're pretty good. Alright, now we're on to wave 15 plus.